Just note that all the members are here and present. First, the acceptance of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
So moved.
All in favor, and I'll do the roll call. Alderman Woodcock,
Aye.
Alderman Waters,
Aye.
and I'm aye. So we have accepted an agenda. Okay, the review of the July 28th Finance Committee meeting minutes. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes or any comments or discussion?
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, Alderman, so we're going to take a roll call. Alderman Waters,
Aye.
Alderman Woodcock,
Aye.
and I am an aye. I see the mayor is here. Mayor, do you have any comments that you'd like to share with the Finance Committee?
Biggest thing is our May local sales tax that came in July was the best non-December in the city's history. Robert will probably hit on that when he gets down to sales tax, but always our best month is December. Our second best month sort of fluctuates a lot of times right before school. But in the fiscal year that we just finished, May was the best one, and it was better than any other non-December in the city's history. I'm sure Robert will hit on that. 1.2, 1.3, I think it was. So. Yeah.
Okay,
So
thank you,
that's it.
Mayor. And you have anything else?
That covers it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. All right, under ordinances, we have ordinance 2020-25, an ordinance amending budget ordinance 2020-20, accepting and appropriating expenditures and revenues awarded through an assistance to firefighters grant, AFG. Do I hear a motion? Any
Move to
discussion?
approve.
Second.
Okay. Alderman, okay, roll call. Alderman Waters,
Aye.
Alderman Woodcock,
Aye.
and I am an aye. So that was recommended 3 unanimously. Ordinance 2020-27, an ordinance accepting and appropriating a donation in the amount of $400 from Morris Orthodontics.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
okay, any discussion? Okay, roll call. Alderman Waters,
Aye.
Alderman Woodcock,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Next ordinance 2020-28, an ordinance amending budget ordinance 2020 by accepting and appropriating sponsorship funds. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion. Okay, roll call. Alderman Waters,
Aye.
Alderman Woodcock,
Aye.
and I'm an aye, so that is recommended unanimously. Next item is ordinance 2020-29, ordinance to authorize amendment to budget ordinance 2020-20 and appropriating funds from the general fund reserves. That is for the Anderson Park project to supplement, would be for the supplemental paving. It does not have any effect on the general fund because we've already accounted for those funds in a reserve fund. Is that correct, Marshall?
That is correct. There's no request for additional funds from the general fund. These are all already funds that we received from the developer.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
You kind of cut out. Let me make sure I understand. This is the Anderson Park developer paying funds that are going to go into a line item for Drake's Creek Road.
No, this
No.
is for the supplemental paving. I'm sorry, Marshall.
I'm sorry, I might have gotten them confused, but this is the Anderson Park $288,000 that we received a few weeks ago. The money is in our, I guess technically in the bank. We just have to go through the process to appropriate that and to be able to spend it.
And we're just going to put it in supplemental paving because we paid Indian Lake, kind of paying it that back.
Sort of, there were some discussions at Public Works Committee about how to spend this money, and after reviewing this with staff, we looked at improvements to Anderson, which if you think about Anderson, there's an additional turn lane that needs to be extended. There's street lights that need to be added. So there's some improvements that are needed on Anderson. The payment made by Anderson Park was to go for for offsite improvements. Typically, that's where it's spent. And we have also received a payment from the Vanderbilt Medical Facility in about $50,000 for the same improvements for their frontage. And so the idea from staff was to do a project on Anderson and improve that. And that's what we discussed at Public Works Committee, was kind of how to spend that money. And we left it with us coming back with estimates for that work.
And the only reason I'm asking questions is because when we got into the issue with Drake's Creek getting repaired, we had all this money from developers that were put more or less into the supplemental paving budget or general fund. And we had to kind of go back and find it and figure out how much we actually had. So why would we not just keep this in its own line item? And then whenever we get those estimates back, use the funds then?
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, have like a separate account just for the Anderson Park money.
Yeah, I thought we had to do that, but that's what I would prefer, just so that we know exactly how much we've received and how much we've spent related to that project and those improvements versus kind of losing it once we put it in supplemental paving.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's a good motion, Daryl. I second that motion.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a question. If we put it in supplemental paving and to Daryl's motion, it doesn't get really designated for a specific project. Is that right?
That's
No.
correct. We pay out of that for all of our paving projects. So and
Okay,
That's
so-
why I made the motion. If we put it in a
Yeah.
separate line item, it has to be for that area and we know exactly where it's going for. So that's what I was
And-
intending with my motion.
Yeah, and I concur with you, Daryl. My other question is, if it's just in paving, and we need curb work and other, sidewalks and that, would that be considered paving?
we pave, supplemental paving is kind of a broad term, but we just kind of use that for transportation projects. If you think back to when we did like volunteer drive or any city project, that's kind of where we use the funds to pay for those projects. It's supplemental paving.
Okay, and Robert, we could put that in a separate fund, a holding fund for that specific project, right?
Already been done.
Oh, okay, good. All right, do we need to pass Daryl's motion first and then vote on it?
Yes.
Okay, any more discussion about that, committee?
No.
Ready to vote?
Yes.
Ready.
Okay, Alderman Waters?
On Daryl's motion, I agree.
Yes.
Aye.
Okay, Alderman Woodcock?
Aye.
And I am an aye. So now to the main motion with the amendment. I guess we have to vote on that now too.
Yes.
Do I hear a motion on that?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Alderman, any discussion on that? Okay, Alderman Waters,
Aye.
Alderman Woodcock,
Aye.
and I am an aye as well. Okay, so that passed 3, that would pass, that was recommended unanimously. Okay, next ordinance 2020-30, ordinance to authorize amendment to budget ordinance 2020 and appropriation, and appropriate performance bond funds from the general fund reserve account. And this was for the performance bonds for the site development of Indian Lake Phase 1, Indian Lake Village Phase 1 for the amount of $27,195. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A discussion? Daryl, did you discuss this at all at, well, it wouldn't be for planning. Marshall, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What exactly are we improving?
This is an old surety that was left over from several years ago from the streets of Indian Lake.
Mhm.
That was the first phase of that development, and the developer obviously that had the surety with us it was a cashier's check, a surety, and they're no longer in. They're no longer a part of it. So when I sent, several years ago, when I sent the email to them to request them to fix the remaining improvements, they were non-responsive. And so as a result of that non-response, we were going through the process to take the surety and spend it. And so there's a whole list of repairs that we've outlined, and some we've already paved Cinema Drive. So, there's some things we've already kind of fixed, but we just have to go through the process to kind of get it off our books and be able to appropriate the money and spend it, when we need to.
Okay, committee, do you guys have any questions?
Yes,
I have
Madam
one
Chair.
quick one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Jim.
Darryl?
Marshall, is this money, can it be used for that crosswalk to get across Saundersville Road to the library?
I don't know directly, but like, for example, we have paved Cinema Drive. And so the money that we've expended to pay Cinema Drive, we could in a way pay ourselves back and reappropriate that money for something else. And so it may not answer your question directly, but I think there may be a way to.
I think you did. I mean, that's what I would like to see done, because it's something in that area that's greatly needed, and we have the money to, if we can just manipulate the lines however we need to get it paid for.
Right.
Marshall, how much money are we talking about?
$27,000.
27? Is
Yeah.
that the surety bond?
It was a cashier's check,
It is.
I believe.
Okay. All right.
Alderman Waters, anything else?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Darryl?
No questions.
Okay. We ready to vote?
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, Alderman Woodcock,
Aye.
Alderman Waters,
Aye.
and I am an aye as well. Okay, that was recommended unanimously. Okay, the next ordinance 2020-31, ordinance to authorize amendment to budget ordinance 2020-20 to appropriate monies into a new account for transportation-related improvements to Drake's Creek Road, which would be for the Durham Farms Roundabout, New Shackle Island at Drake's Creek intersection, and Long Hollow and Drake's Creek intersection. Do I hear a motion?
So move. So
Second.
move.
And there's second. Okay, discussion. How much are we talking about? I didn't write down the,
$650,000.
okay, that's right. And this will be in a special fund just
That's
to be used for that purpose, right?
That's correct.
And it's coming right now, it's coming from the Drake's Creek fund that we already have established, right?
The finance has set aside an account to collect our special special fees that we get from payment in lieu and builders, and we've collected that over several years, and it's accumulated to the amount you have before you, $650,000, and obviously it's as houses are built, it continues to accumulate. So it's not all the money, but right now that's all the money we have to be able to appropriate.
And this is all from Durham Farms?
No, there's four subdivisions. There's Fountain Brook, Ivy Point, Norman Creek, and then Durham Farms is by far the largest amount we've received, but those other three subdivisions have also contributed to that amount.
Alderman Waters? Question, yeah. Marshall, is this money to be used for that particular location that we just described? The roundabout, Long Hollow, and New Shackle, right?
Yeah, the funds are designated. There's obviously notes in the entitlements and on the plats that kind of explain kind of where to spend those monies. Obviously on Drake's Creek is the primary focus. And of course, all those areas are on Drake's Creek. But yeah, right now that's the focus of where those monies are spent. And the roundabout, out of all those areas, the roundabout is the most prominent need.
Mm-hmm. There at Drake's Creek,
Yes,
right
yes,
at the
sir.
intersection of Durham Farms.
Yes, sir.
Is that going to be up to the city to make those improvements?
Yes, sir. That's the purpose. That's the intent of the appropriation, is for us to begin that process.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, madam.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Waters. Alderman Woodcock?
No questions at this time, but I may have a lot when this goes to Bowman in 2 weeks.
Okay. Anybody else? Marshall, you want to add anything?
I think that's it. Like I say, it's for those areas, and we've been collecting those monies for probably I mean, since the inception of Fountain Brook and Durham Farm, so that we've had the money for a while.
Do you have do you have a breakdown of each project or an approximate breakdown of each project?
Planning, yeah, we can provide that. Planning keeps very detailed records of how much each neighborhood contributes in the form of a payment in lieu and also the per lot fee. So we can provide that.
Okay, but also I would like to know an approximate amount for each of those projects. 'Cause there's three
Sure.
There's
Yeah.
3 particular projects listed
Yes.
and I'm,
Yeah, we can.
and are they, as they're listed as 1, 2, and 3. I'm looking at Durham Farms Roundabout probably has number 1 priority.
Yes, that's correct.
And then Drake's Creek intersection is number 2, and then Long Hollow. Have they cut all the way through Long Hollow already?
Not, they're approaching Long Hollow. They have not made it all the way through yet.
Okay, and then that's number 3. And I'd
That's
like to
correct.
know approximately how much each of those projects would be before BOMA.
Yeah, we can.
I don't need to know that now. Okay, committee, anything else? Anybody else?
That's all. Thank you.
Okay, let's vote. Alderman Waters,
Aye.
Alderman Woodcock,
Aye.
and I am an aye as well. Okay, so that was recommended unanimously. Under resolutions, we have resolution 2020-48, a resolution to declare equipment owned by the city to be surplus property and directing disposal of the same. Do I
So
hear a
moved.
motion?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, roll call. Alderman Waters,
Aye.
Alderman Woodcock,
Aye.
and I am an aye as well. Okay, discussion. And then Robert, I'm going to let you kind of have the floor on this, on the items to include on the debt issuance. Do you have a project list?
I do. I've sort of made a makeshift one, but in reality, this is in no way intended to be exhaustive listing. If this is just items that have been discussed, I will share my screen here.
Thank you.
These are just items that have been discussed up to this point as potential items to be borrowed for. By no means am I advocating for or against any of these, but rather just listing them all out here for convenience. What finance, and please tell me if this goes off screen here, but I'm trying to move it for you so it makes, I hope it didn't. Yeah.
No, it's good.
Okay, all right.
I could see it.
Roger, one more time. There you go.
So, sorry, I zoomed in too much there, but sorry, I don't have too many comments to make other than just a few quick notes. Most of these were either intended to be a part of the bond or from the beginning, or they were a part of the budget process and unfortunately were needing to be removed just for questions of revenue, as many of you know. I will add that, again, this amount down here is sum totaling all of these. I like I said, not advocating for or against anything in particular, but finance, before we bring forth a resolution, we really need some guidance from the boards, maybe some directives there on sort of what priorities are going forward and how much we're really looking to borrow for right now. You know, that's kind of where we stand before we put a resolution forth. Kind of need to know how much it's supposed to be for. And obviously there's a couple of big ticket items here. I do have some, not a lot, but on some of these, I do have some documentation that if if, you know, Parks, Public Works, Fire, if anybody wants to speak on them, certainly happy to pull anything up, anything I have for any discussions there. If you guys want to go down the list, or if you want to pick out something that interests you, or however you think is best to do that, Chairman Cunningham.
I'd like to ask about, I'd like to go to one item on the list, specifically the fire hall construction. Scotty, and this could be meant for you. On the fire hall, we have the land in the park, the volunteer park, right?
Yes, ma'am.
What about the equipment for the fire hall? Is that included in the fire truck replacement line
Yes,
item?
ma'am. So that the fire engine is going to be a turnkey because we don't have stuff in reserve to put on an engine company. So that price that you see there, well, everything will come on it: hose, nozzles, tools, appliances, everything that we need, air packs to go on that, is all included in that price.
So 2,500 is for the fire hall construction?
2,500,000. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
I wish we could get on that.
I thought we had a sale going on today.
Right.
It's been a long day. $2.5 million for the actual construction of the building. And then $800,000 for one fire truck and the equipment?
Yes, ma'am. It'll be four air packs and 4 masks. And then as you above, you see that the 598 is for total replacements across the department. But these air packs that come on this engine are not accounted for right now because we don't have those in stock.
Okay, all right. So we're looking at a total cost of $3.3 million, right?
3.3 for the engine and the station. And then if you throw in the 598, you might as well say 3.9 for everything. Air packs, replacements, department wide, the station, and then the turnkey fire engine.
Okay, I'm just looking at the new fire hall right now.
Okay. The new fire hall then is-
My understanding is that you said the 800,000 includes the air packs and everything, the fire engine and,
Yes, ma'am. For that particular fire engine. Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
okay, all right.
Yeah, 4.
Then my second question is about the air pack replacements. I don't know anything about any of this. Educate me on why we have to replace that and how critical it is and the need
Okay,
for
so
it.
right now we're 2 phases behind in air packs. They'll still.
What is an air pack?
It's what we wear on our backs when we're fighting house fires.
Okay,
It's the one that gives us the ability to breathe inside of a contaminated atmosphere. So we're 2 phases behind, 2 series behind in air packs. They will still provide parts for our air packs now, but there's no guarantees of when those parts will be available. So we could tell them, hey, we need part X, and it could take up to 3 to 4 months to get that part. We need to be on a current system. Our bottles all have a shelf life as well, and we are approaching those shelf lives that we have to terminate those. We're within 2 years of those being terminated. So I just thought this would be a great opportunity to get ahead of the curve and replace every one of our air packs and bottles and masks in the department. And then we'll be good to go for another 15 years.
what kind of life, okay, my second question was 15-year life?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, when was the last time they were replaced, you remember?
13 years ago. So
Okay.
2007. Yes, ma'am.
All right, is there any way we could include that in your new budget, next year's budget, or?
I mean, I don't mind asking for it, but anything could happen budget wise and things can happen, but yeah, we can do whatever. I mean, we can apply for grants. I mean, it's always a shot in the dark. If we went ahead and did this and then we applied through an AFG for air pack replacements, which is kind of what I was planning on doing, we could simply just not spend that money and then basically use that to pay notes off. If I'm not mistaken, that would be more of a Robert question. If we were
Okay.
granted another AFG, I don't mind pursuing grants. We certainly seek every opportunity to that, but I don't want to miss the boat and not have the opportunity to have those in there.
Okay, all right, perfect explanation. That's what I was looking for. Those are my questions so far about that list. Committee,
I have a couple quick questions.
Daryl?
I can't help but notice there's pretty much no real infrastructure capital projects on the list. Is there a reason for that?
Nothing substantial. I just, there weren't any that got cut from it, as an intent to borrow for. I think the only one that was cut was the DOT project, the Saundersville. And by cut, I mean to say that we obviously would fund it if it came calling, but we did not anticipate having expenditures this budget year. That was the only major one. So yeah, for other than that, that's kind of my reasoning there. I didn't have it on the list.
Marshall, did you have any input on this list?
I did. Yeah, I'll be honest. I didn't realize. I didn't realize this was going to be on the agenda tonight for finance. I need to go back and look at our list of projects. I know off the top of my head, one thing that I was going to ask for in the bond was the remaining money we needed to complete the roundabout project at the entrance to Durham Farms. I don't. I need to probably need a moment to compile the numbers and provide that, but I think I could do that fairly quickly. Yeah.
Go ahead, Marshall. Sorry.
No, but no, I can certainly, that project and any other infrastructure project that we'd want to consider for a bond, I can look at again and make sure that Robert has that information.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, please. And again, I just want to reiterate, this is just items really that we were cutting out of the budget that were immediately talked about as potential to borrow for. No way. And leaving anything off intentionally and realize that's kind of my comments. We're looking to you guys to give us a little instruction and direction on who, what, when, where, how, and why, what we're borrowing for.
Yeah, I agree.
Daryl, are you done?
I am not.
Okay, go ahead.
I agree with
Proceed.
everything that was said. And, my fear is we have a list and, in the past, we introduce something and next thing you know, that's what we're running with. And there's not a lot of thought going into how we started and we end up with something we don't really need or want. But I would just ask that Public Works and the Capital Projects Committee also be involved in the conversation to make sure we're not missing any large infrastructure projects that are going to come calling, but not have the funding for, which I think we're all in agreement to do that. And second question is, what is our debt capacity? Like, what's the max we could bond out?
Well, state of Tennessee doesn't stipulate that. I would say realistically, knowing the comptroller has made mention of us needing a fund balance policy and stipulating certain say balances. I've revised that recently and went back and looking at it. I have tried to say there's three methods. One is a percentage of your operational expenditures for the year that the board should generally decide on, whether it's 30% or 15% sometimes. Another method, and I will not going to bore you with each and what those numbers would look like, but another method is a percentage of property values. And that one would really be reserved for something like Nashville, where you've got water and electric and things like that. But then there's kind of a third method, and I've tried to use a blend of the three, and to keep us at a yearly debt payment under $2.5 million. Well, excuse me, $2.8 million is what I've tried to keep us under, just based on a percentage of what we do operationally, what we spend each year, and on top of that, kind of trying to build that fund balance a little bit. If we're having trouble keeping some in the fund balance, but we're increasing that debt limit, how much we spend each year, that's kind of problematic, and it becomes some hard decisions each year on what we're doing. So with that being said, I like that long, boring speech there. Trying to keep this around 6.5 borrowing this year would keep us under that. 6.5 million, excuse me.
What would the payment on this be? Oh, Daryl, are you done?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay. What would the payment on a $6.5 million capital outlay now for 12 years be, Robert? The annual payment?
Give me one moment. I've lost the spreadsheet.
Oh,
I have a my
not the 7.5 million, 6.5 million that you just mentioned.
right. I apologize. One moment.
I know it depends on the interest, but the interest rates are really low now too.
My debt estimate. Gosh, I apologize. Here we go. Open up my spreadsheet here and we'll get going. On a, do you want to know the 6.5 million?
Yes, sir.
Okay. On a 12-year term, estimate around 2.3% interest. That's going to be around a yearly payment of starting out at $690,000 and reducing annually, reducing every year.
Okay.
That would be principal of 540, and then interest would be the rest.
Okay. That was my question. Alderman Waters, did you have anything?
No questions, ma'am. Thank you.
Anybody else?
No
So,
questions. Move to approve.
Daryl?
I was just saying, no other questions. I'm ready to.
Okay.
There's nothing to vote
yeah,
on.
I don't think we're going to vote on it. It was just for discussion. This is, it sounds to me that this needs to go to capital projects and of course, or to public works. We need to decide what's most important on this list and what we have to add, what we have to delete and that sort of thing. So I don't think we're, as far as I know, we're not voting on this tonight. This is just for discussion.
That's right.
Okay, committee?
Sounds
Agreed.
good.
Okay, let's go on to the next item then. If nobody else has anything to add or to say about it. Robert, I'm turning this over to you now on the sales tax and the hotel motel tax report.
Please let me know if this did not update with local sales tax numbers in front of you here.
Okay.
I believe it should have. Calling back to the mayor's comments a little bit. Normally, well, he's still correct, but normally this would be a May figure that for you. But we took the opportunity here to correct. We get these numbers online and early enough to have them before you, rather than be 2 months late. We can have them 1 month. 1 month in arrears instead of 2 months in arrears now. So it actually is for June activity.
Oh, nice.
But the mayor is correct about this being one of the highest collections that we've had in the history. I mean, and especially outside of December, which again, as you can see, this has kind of shifted a little bit. It's our January collection for December activity is around, obviously, with Christmas shopping and Black Friday deals, which usually is November, but kind of hangs over into December a little bit. So surprisingly, again, Hendersonville is COVID resistance when it comes to local sales tax, it seems. I mean, knock on wood, fingers crossed that this continues, and would love it if it does. But we're up $183,000 over FY20. Which, you know, year over year, FY20 was up 75,000 or 74,000. So certainly hope that trend continues. That's 15% increase year over year. If that trend continued, we would be up an estimated 10% over our budgeted numbers. But again, that's assuming some reduced retail in the November, December timeframes. But so that's, that's the good news. That's if anybody has any questions, please let me know, but I'm gonna move on if not.
Well, I have a question.
Sure.
So last year in January, were for sales tax collections in November or December?
This is for activity in December. This was collection that we received notification of in January, but we probably got the check in February. But that was December activity that we received notification of in January. So,
Okay, so we had a 1.4 in for sales tax collections in December from last.
That's right. That's right. This is what the state would call January collections. So
Okay,
our report's more in line kind of with theirs now.
okay, great. Well, we're moving and grooving. That's wonderful news.
It is. Now kind of a bit more of the downer side, hotel motel occupancy tax, down 19,000 over last year's July. Only 1 year of data on July here to go off of. I would hope that 35,000 is a regular occurrence and 16 is just a COVID-19 fluke, but we really don't have history
Okay.
to go off of to make a determination of whether we can expect to see 35 every year. So, but it does appear to be increasing. We were hit
Mhm.
pretty heavily.
Sure. Absolutely.
Outside of that, I closing out the fiscal year recently has we limited our reporting for you guys. So until July numbers are finalized, we'll have those for you next month and try and work on having August for you then as well. But yeah, so we've been working on fiscal year end. I only have one other note from my end.
Mhm.
I know during the general committee, there was some discussion about the city administrator contract and moving expenses and I've got to eat a little crow and being put on the spot and going with the information I had in front of me at the time. I said that the moving expenses would be non-taxable and the living expenses would be taxable, but going back and looking at it, Ms. Davis looked at it, we looked at it, it turns out that they all would be taxable items and paid in lump sum. So I just want to make sure that everybody on the call was notified of that and made that correction, at least in here, and certainly willing to do that in BOMA if asked.
Okay. I noticed you didn't put the cash flow. How's our cash flow looking, Robert? I know we're getting close to the September, October.
Right. So we monitor that pretty heavily starting, middle of August. Sort of the problem of putting together a formal cash flow right now is knowing where we start. And in order to do that, we've got to finalize the fiscal year end close to see what June's numbers were before July started. That's sort of the issue we run into with our outdated system. That's what we've done over the last week. It's just getting July started is kind of what we're working on right now. So
We're up to date with all of our payments and everything now.
Up to date as it stands right now. Nothing is currently delayed to my knowledge, though I know you know, there's always some people needing payment, and then we get to hearing about it when checks aren't out quite yet. So certainly hear about that.
Okay,
Vendors,
so everything,
vendors don't care what we got going on. They want to get paid.
oh, sure, sure. And there's no problem with that, right?
Well, you know, it depends on definition of problem, you know.
Okay, committee? Have anything,
I'm
Robert?
curious about the last comment. What's going on?
Well, I mean, you know, if somebody's not getting paid, that's a problem, period. If we're getting called, whether it's our mistake, whether it's a mistake, whether it's signing mistake, if it's, you know, whatever it may be, again, a vendor doesn't care what our excuse is. They need money. They want their cash. So that's, you know, that's kind of where my comments come from. I totally understand. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to cut you off. Maybe I misunderstood. I thought you said everyone was getting paid, but then you made the comment, which made me think people were not getting paid. So maybe I misunderstood one way.
Well, and so we have some vendors that work with us. They're longtime contracted vendors that work with us, and they even know, like, I won't try not to name any names, but they even know that during September, October, November, we have cash flow issues, and they work with us on payments. But we have some that just can't do that. Some of the smaller vendors can't float a payroll to several weeks, and even in their contract it says from the date of receipt of this invoice, we have 10 days to pay, or something like that, and rightfully so. But when someone's calling and expecting it, you know, we look into that as best we can, but sometimes it's out of our hands. And, you know, right now we've kind of got to slow down with the check thing. I know that was a big that was a big subject matter a couple meetings ago, but we've got to slow down there. And then on top of that, we got year end, and we're just starting into an audit and trying to get on a new accounting system. So it's doing the best we can to keep up, but slowdowns in areas that we don't need to slow down on or don't have to are can be problematic. So
Is there something you need from the finance committee to help with this?
Yes, there is.
I don't know if there's anything the finance committee can do. I don't mean that negatively or condescending by any means. I don't know what action could be taken.
There's a slowdown in check signing. Is that what you said?
There has been. It was quite a heavy topic, heavily discussed topic a couple of weeks ago, and you know, certainly don't fault anyone for wanting to look at it, and we want to make it as quick and seamless as possible. But right now, it's certainly lower than normal, at least than what we're used to, I suppose.
Dave, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm gonna be the elephant in the room. Robert gave some checks to the mayor on August 17th, and they're still in his office in the vault, and he hasn't signed them yet. There's 7-way checks, and at the meeting he said that, you know, who signs the checks? He signs the checks, and so if he's going to sign the checks, then he needs to sign the checks. And so they've been in his office since the 17th in the vault, and he hasn't signed them yet. He's waiting for documentation. So Robert's beating around the bush, as you can tell. He's stammering and stuttering. I'm not going to beat around the bush. The checks need to be signed by the mayor.
I need documentation of those checks first, and I made it clear that there are some documents that were missing. Robert and I are working toward those, and I feel like I've gotten everything now that I can probably sign them in the morning. I'm not going to sign checks without documentation. On the first group, we were missing one, and we found that. On this one, there are 6 or 7 that we're missing, and I think we're going to take care of it in the morning.
Which vendor checks are being held up? Are they all being held up, or just a few?
No, it's just a few. It's the high. It's some of those checks above 250,000. Well, I should say the highest of our checks.
How about,
The
Waste-
one-
how about Waste Pro for 258? How about Waste Pro for 258, and how about Rogers Group for about 700,000?
And we have a couple, I think, heating companies, couple, an air conditioning company. Dave, you may feel comfortable signing those checks without documentation. I don't.
I don't sign checks. I never have.
All the documentation is there. I just want to clear that error.
Yeah,
up.
it is now. It is now. Yeah. Dave, you may feel comfortable putting my signature on checks without documentation. I don't.
I don't feel comfortable. I've never signed a check.
Again, you may feel comfortable authorizing my signature on checks.
I have
I
never
don't.
signed a check.
So
And
it took 8 days to get documentation? Is that right, Robert?
No.
Yeah.
The documentation's been there.
So,
Can I jump in before we get too far off the track?
Yeah, well,
yeah, go ahead, Daryl.
things been on.
So I can see both sides of this, but honestly, after making all the changes that we've made to the actual role of the mayor, it seems to me it'd make more sense for the city administrator to sign the future checks. So can we not make that change to where it's the city administrator going forward?
Charter doesn't allow it.
Yeah, I think the charter has something
So
to
you
do.
have absolutely no say in anything, but you get to write the check.
I mean,
Fine.
That's pretty close. Robert and I also talk about, we've gone back and forth a little bit about possibly a new process to speed this up. Keep in mind, this is the only second time that I've gotten a bundle of checks with everything being online. It used to that everything was not online. So this is the only second time I've gotten a bundle of online documentation. And it's sort of working out some kinks.
So my question again, why did it take 8 days to get the documents to the mayor?
Well, I think Robert is telling you is I think both of us are telling you the truth is that the documents are there, but when it's all online, sometimes it's hard to find those documents when you're talking about 50 and 60 checks at a time.
We don't want to hold up Rogers Group. That's the paving.
Well, we actually can hold up Rogers Group because, we don't want to, but we actually can.
If we
I mean, I
made an
just-
agreement with the vendor, we need to keep to that agreement.
Well, and our agreement is that we can delay payment with them. Obviously, that's not what we want to do, but the larger checks are something I'm going to make sure that we have a documentation for.
Well, but there's other issues with it too, though. We can't, if we hold up one check, we hold up the entirety of all of them, whether signed or unsigned, because we've got to reconcile the check run before we can do another. So in essence, holding up a $1 check would hold up 100 other checks.
Which we haven't done. All the checks that I'm still searching for documentation, took longer to find documentation, are high dollar checks.
Yes. But I guess,
Robert, all you could do is just do the best we can.
right.
We're at the mercy of the person signing the checks with the documents. So, all right, is there anything else, committee?
Madam Chairman, may I say something?
Yes, I'm sorry. I can't see whose hands are
That's all right.
raised.
I raised my hands and I've been waving at you, but I didn't.
I'm sorry. No,
Quite all right. My
Robert. if
question
you-
is for Robert. real
Okay,
quick.
great.
Robert, I'm just curious, how many people look at the documentation prior to generating the check run? Verify that run?
That's a great question.
Does it start in the department heads and then they turn it into accounting?
It'll typically start either with the department head or the department head's administrative assistant or someone along that, the designee, I suppose. And so that's 2 at minimum with the department, if not more. And then our accounts payable will look at it, including the accounts payable manager. Excuse me. And then myself, and then Mr. Lamarb. And then typically myself and or my assistant director again before these are prepared. And then our accounts payable will prepare the checks at that point.
But before we ever get to the check signing part of it, there's been 8 people that have processed that document basically prior to that check being generated, correct? Approximately.
Yes, sir.
I just want to make sure we follow standard accounting procedures that are pretty much standard across the board with any corporation in any city. in the state of Tennessee. I know that there comes a point where you can say, I know some places that the mayor doesn't even sign the check. I handle their check signing equipment for them, and an actual facsimile signature is laid on that document. And he might look at the check afterwards, or he might look at it prior to it going through a machine, but it was automated, and I handle that equipment. And I can tell you all about it. That's why I'm asking the process. And even our own entity partners down in Brentwood or Franklin, I handle their check signing equipment for them as well. And we talked about the check signing yesterday when I was in their office regarding that. So that's why I'm trying to get up to speed with why we're having trouble with processing the check. Once it's gone through all the steps to be generated, it's ready for it to be processed and kicked out the door. So thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you,
I've got
Pat.
to ask this question or it's going to bug the hell out of me.
Sure.
Are we literally asking the mayor just to close his eyes and sign 6-figure checks and never ask a question? I mean, we're
Not at
talking about
all.
a few days
Thank you.
here. I mean, I don't understand. I could get if it's been weeks, but let's be honest. If he signs a check and there's something wrong with it, there's going to be a line of you guys standing up to crucify him over it. I think giving him a few days to get some documentation, assuming the documentation is justified, is not inappropriate.
Oh, I agree. I agree that during the process, there comes a point when maybe, hey, we're generating checks on Wednesday. Mayor, can you stop by Wednesday at 2 o'clock to review the check run?
I have
A lot of companies do that. A lot of companies, a lot of cities do that. I mean, I know for a fact that they have certain times, just like we have staff meetings, people show up to verify a check run and to go through it and double check the numbers, just to make sure everything's.
I'd be open to that.
I mean, there you go. I'm just trying to help you come up with a solution on signing checks.
Madam Chairman, I have a question.
Alderman Petrelli.
Thank you, Chairman. So I just checked with our Public Works Director and asked if the documentation was turned over to justify the payment to Rogers Group. And he said, absolutely, we initial the invoice for approval and submit check request. So I want to ask our Finance Director, Robert, you're saying that that documentation was indeed with the invoice for Rogers Group. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, I'm just going to say, I appreciate what Daryl Woodcock said, but to negate what you just said, he's been signing checks for 3.65 years now without questioning anything.
Not true. Not true.
I realize it's in the charter, but if one of our larger vendors, Waste Pro is going to be a reoccurring monthly expense that should be pretty standard.
Well, Alderman Petrelli, let's make sure you know what you're talking about. I haven't been signing checks
Mayor
for.
Claire, you don't have the floor. I am
And the
speaking.
documentation. was
Mayor
always
Petrelli
provided on
still
hard
has the
copy.
floor, Mayor, with all due respect.
I hope you
So-
will come back to me. I apologize.
Yes.
Unbelievable. So again, with Waste Pro, that particular vendor, correct me if I'm wrong, Marshall, that payment should be about the same every month. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So with paving, that's going to fluctuate based on your projects. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And you signed off on their most current request of invoice.
That's correct.
Okay. So that concerns me that we would do anything to delay paving in our town because we are in our most choice weather right now for paving.
Marshall, does this delay paving?
We haven't given.
Mayor, I'm not done talking. When I'm done,
I'm sorry.
then ask questions.
I thought
Thank
you
you.
finished. I'm sorry.
So all I'm saying is that if we have a vendor based on our pay schedule and our workload schedule that we've turned into them for paving, I would not want to do anything to risk them becoming concerned about payments from the city. We've got to make sure that we're paying our vendors on time for work approved.
Chairman Cunningham?
Okay,
Thank you.
are
Thank
you
you.
done? Okay.
Yeah.
Mayor,
The process for 3.5 years of signing checks was hard copies. That process has changed in the past couple months, and I haven't signed checks or check requests or check issuance requests for the past 6 months. Now it's an online process, so it's a completely different process of what I did before, and that's sort of causing some of the, I guess I should say, some of the hiccups there.
Sure.
And none of what we've done, none of holding up for some of the larger checks has had any impact on our vendors.
Mayor Clary, do you feel comfortable you could find the documentation now with the new system?
I think so. I sent Robert an email, I think earlier today, that it looks like all the documentation is there. Basically what he did is he found the documentation, sent it to me in an email as opposed to me finding it online. Because we're gonna talk about 70 checks and they're not all apparent exactly which check is for what. And I said, I'm pretty sure I can get them taken care of by tomorrow. And Robert, I mean, I think you responded to that email, so we should be good, right?
It's gonna take over a week each time. Not really. It's almost as if we're backdating checks. And,
Okay.
and if again, I say one check is holding up future, I can't cut a new check run until I resolve all of them. If that makes
Pat had an idea. Maybe that's what we need to look at, I guess.
maybe so.
Sounds
Anything
like
else about
check
this?
signing is a priority. So if there's any questions, Mayor Clary, maybe you get with Robert right away, since that's a timely issue. Thank you.
We've been doing that. We've been emailing constantly for this past several days.
Okay, anybody else?
Madam Chairman, are we finished? It's getting time for Bowman.
Yeah. No, nobody has anything else. Do I hear a motion to adjourn our meeting?
Amen.
To adjourn.
Okay, Alderman Woodcock,
Aye.
Alderman Waters,
I'm gone. Bye. Thank you.
and I am an aye. Thank you, everybody.
Tina, are you with me? Okay.